Ah, human. You're here quite early tonight. I haven't even officially opened the bar yet, though I'm glad the door was unlocked. Of course, you're always welcome here, no matter the time. Has something happened? I would hate to hear that you had come here because of something bad. I don't mean to remind you of a negative experience, but I still think quite a bit on the time that you came in here injured. I worry sometimes when you arrive late. But the same will not happen again. I don't want to see you in pain, if I can help it. But I suppose it's probably not my place to remind you of things like that, as you probably remember them quite a bit more vividly than I do, being the one who actually had to experience the fight, rather than just the aftermath of it, as I did. Tell me, human, have you ever wondered what it would be like to just not have to deal with such things? I suppose that's true. It is a kind of staple of humanity, isn't it? Not just humanity, perhaps, as other creatures still feel pain, of course. I felt it myself a fair number of times since turning, and I know of many other creatures of varying different types. You obviously have felt emotions just as vividly as your kind are able to. But I suppose I have a bit more of an advantage, particularly in physical altercations. I highly doubt that there would be any fights with simple townsfolk that I would not be able to win. But I suppose there's always the matter of restraint as well. I struggled with that a bit upon first turning. I'm sure you've heard of vampire strength, and I can be the first to tell you that it's no joke. The first time I shook someone's hand after being changed, I broke it on accident. A firm handshake had turned into something quite a bit more serious. I took some time, spending with my own kind, to get used to the fragility of humans once more. There are many a vampire who never try to learn such things, but simply keep to themselves or to others of their kind. But I find that interacting with the human world is something that I quite enjoy. There's blood, of course, which I prefer to obtain consensually, as I'm sure you know. But there are other advantages. Friendships and other relationships that I definitely would have missed out on had I not been open to spending more time with humans. Even after changing, I found that I still quite enjoy their company. When I had first turned, it was because I was so used to them. They didn't seem strange at all. Of course, that changed as I got older. It's not often that I meet a human as old as I am, and even then they wouldn't exactly be in my league of life, I suppose you could say. But as I grew older, I found that I still enjoyed humans' company. The others, they acted as a way to remind me of what I had been. I wonder if that sometimes there's a difference between me and other monster kind, as I was once human, whereas many of them were not. There are times when the memories of that life slip from my mind, but there are others where they are quite vivid, such as the times that I spend with you. But of course, that's not the only reason I enjoy your company, my dear human. You yourself are quite interesting, on top of your blood being quite enticing. I find your personality intriguing. Every exchange we have to get there only sends me thirsting for more. And your shyness, it was never something that I thought I would find so attractive before, but here we are. Yes, I will admit that I did say that just to make that blush of yours appear, but it simply is so adorable. I'm afraid I couldn't resist. I would apologize, but I'm afraid I can't say I'm very sorry. Now, tell me, human, I'm sure you didn't come here just for me to fluster you. What is it that you need? Don't tell me it's time for you to finally try something more exotic from my bar. Of course, as I said before, we are not quite open yet, but I'll always make an exception for you, of course. What's that? Not looking for anything in particular? Well, I'm quite flattered that you came here. But was it really just to spend time with me? Avoiding my eyes now, are we? I suppose it means that I wasn't far off the mark. Don't worry, human. I don't mind. You're welcome to come as early as you like, and stay as long as you please to. I think you and I both know that I could definitely use the company. Vampires tend to be rather solitary creatures, but I'm finding that since we've started a new relationship, that the feeling of companionship is rather peculiar. It's not entirely new to me, I suppose. I have had some little love affairs in the past, but it's been quite some time since I felt as close to anyone, much less a human, as I do to you now. Something about you has gotten my guard down, perhaps against my better judgment, but, well, I can't say that I mind. Quite the opposite, actually. I suppose relationships like this are often fated to end tragically. One human cursed with a vibrant but short life, and one vampire who always seem to linger a bit past the prime of their life, don't you think? Of course, I will be at my absolute best physically for as long as I continue to draw breath, so to speak. But, well, as you can imagine, it can get quite boring after a time, going about your life day in and day out, never ceasing for years and years. I suppose that's part of the reason I started this bar. I've had other ventures in the past, of course, but this one allows me to be a little bit more social. I find that it's through others that I often get I suppose entertainment sounds a bit impolite, but that is more or less what it is. So, it's true that my life may be cursed to be quite dull from here on out. But there is, of course, always others that I can listen to, perhaps even live vicariously through. Not that that's what I've done with you, of course, but I do appreciate your company, simply for company's sake. Though I do also very much appreciate that you are still in your youth, I suppose you could say. It's something that you should cherish while you have it. Of course, I have no idea what it's like to grow old physically, but I am afraid that I have quite a bit of experience in what it feels like to grow old mentally, and it's not a fate that I would wish on anyone. Which is why I hesitate to say something that's actually been on my mind for quite some time now, but, well, it's been a little bit of time since we've decided to grow our relationship into realms past just friendship, and I'm sure it's crossed your mind that something like this can't exactly last forever, with us being so different. Of course, those differences don't bother me in the least. Not in the way that they would bother some others, such as your attackers that I've mentioned before, but, well, like I said, if there's something to be cherished, then the longer it can be held on to, the better, right? You've spent enough time hanging around monsters to know what we are like. Good days and bad days and everything in between. You've witnessed them in this bar. Through me and others, you've become an accepted member of our community. Human or no, we have all become quite fond of you. Though the others know that I've definitely laid my claim. I suppose what I mean to say is, it seems that, in some way or another, at least some of your human companions have found out about our little arrangement, even if not in full, and they do not seem to be the happiest about it. But within these walls, at least in the eyes of the people here, you are quite welcome, and all except physicality, you are more or less one of us already. And that's true that we were a bit wary when you were first coming in here. Underneath all the caution I felt, it almost feels like it has been that way since the beginning. You were kind and non-judgmental to all the different types here, and you never reported us to any authorities, as many of them first feared that you would, myself included. I'm afraid to say I was a little bit nervous of such an event when you first started joining us here each night. But all worries of that kind have slipped from my mind now, and as far as I can gather, everyone else's as well. So, I've been thinking, and, well, I have asked a couple of the other bar members to be transparent. The truth is, I've been a little nervous to bring this up with you. More nervous than when I told you my feelings before, but forgive me if this is out of line, but you don't quite fit in with humankind, do you? I don't mean that in a bad way, of course, and definitely not in the way that other humans who may have said that to you have. It's simply a observation, and not an insult. And that's not to say that you don't fit in anywhere, of course, as you seem to make yourself quite at home here, and I'm quite happy for it. But perhaps some of your own kind, among them it is not so easy, or at least that is what I have observed. I can see from your expression that I wasn't too far off the mark. My apologies for being so blunt, but it has been something that has been on my mind. And, if you can follow my train of thought, if you are a human that doesn't find they fit in among other humans, but they do fit in among monsters, particularly vampires such as myself, then there is indeed a solution to that kind of problem, if you would want to consider it. I don't bring this up lightly, of course. It's a transition that I wouldn't exactly recommend to anyone who was not entirely sure that it was exactly what they wanted, but I have found that I have quite enjoyed my time as an immortal, and, personally, it's not a gift that I have bestowed on anyone before, and not something that any of my kind would do without much thought, but if you were to desire to be something a bit more long-lasting, well, I may be able to help you with that. You can take the time to decide for yourself what it is that you would like to do, of course, but I figured it was worth asking. Like I said, the choice is yours, and I understand it's a big one, so I'll give you time to think on it, but I just wanted to put it out there, to make sure you knew that it was an option, if you wanted it. But I've been talking your ear off yet again. The time has come for me to open the bar. I'll leave you to think about your answer, for now. But no matter what it is you decide, I support it. I'll love you always, no matter what.